I was scrolling Facebook, and yesterday I came across this post where this woman had posted this book, and a couple of pages from it is titled What Men Don't Like About Women by Thomas D. Horton. This is the granddaddy of the Encelosauruses of right now. They walked so the current day Encelosauruses could run and type on the internets. Some of the topics broached: women as bosses. We know that these men today cannot stand boss babes, their dislike for women underlings, their use of sex in business, their dictatorships. Now, this book was written in 1945, so I don't know what their dictatorships were like. Women as dinner companions, they don't like those. They're overeating and over ordering. You know, men today talk about taking food home, or she actually had the nerve to eat all of those chicken wings. Their dishonesty, they are still talking about that now in red pill circles, how women are just dishonest. Women as correspondents and telegram senders. Now, y'all know, like, women that dare to get into sports and want to be on the TV reading prompts and stuff and do a newscast. Yes, this was the precursor to that. Their unreasonable expectations, their silly dating of letters, their super illiteracy. Well, the super illiteracy part has been solved, considering women are outperforming men as far as education. Women in the office, which is different from women as bosses. Their assumptions in regard to lunch. I don't know what that means, because, they used to say that women didn't know how to order lunch. Their misapplied femininity, their unfair sex practices. I guess this is the withholding of, even though it says women in the office, so that's weird. Women as flirts, barflies, and ladies of the night. Their penchant for married men, their sneakiness, ladies of the night as fair people. Oh, here we go. Women as, this is what they don't like: women as readers, writers, and authors, their love of the salacious, their pointless criticism, women authors as repulsive beings. Jesus, they do not like women that write stuff down and talk to other women. And, women talking, that's just drivel. That's just pointless. It's just like, why are they even talking? Why should we hear them? Women on the telephone, their unnatural telephone voice, their appalling manner in two timing you or the other man, their bad manners, teasing, and hoggishness. Well, the men have taken over as far as bad manners. But Jesus, they don't like their voices. And like I said, this was back in 1945, and Encelosaurus could have written this, but this, is a book, and they can barely use punctuation these days. Women as theater, concert, movie, and walking companions, their incompetence as theater goers, their contempt for the art of walking. There's an art to walking. Their movie manners. Women as drinkers, their fraudulent connoisseurship, their lack of control when under the influence of liquor, their troublemaking. So, yeah, they have issues with ladies drinking. These ladies probably get a little tipsy and might say a cuss word or two. Women as friends, wives, they're impudent, probing. They do not want women talking like we talk right now, because then someone might say, that is not right. That is not good. You should walk away. They don't like that. Their love of espionage, like women taking videos and making videos go viral of men cheating, probably. Their means of fortifying their marriage. So I guess this is women trying to make sure that they can survive after marriage. Women as engaged animals. Jesus. Their immediate sense of ownership, their bad sportsmanship, their jealousy of your mother, and more. So that I don't know what this means. Are like women just all of a sudden becoming dictators? Is that what they meant over here on this other side? I don't know. But I found this to be quite amusing. I wish she would have given more than just this one page, but I'm going to read this page to you. This is from the chapter Women as Flirts, Barflies, and Ladies of the Night. Their unfailing preference for the well heeled. A woman will generally flirt with people of position, particularly financial, rather than merely interesting men. She seems to be incapable of romance with pure poetry. Given the choice, she will always choose to ride in a $2,500 car rather than a used car, regardless of who her companion is. Even when the fancy man turns out to be a pauper, she seems to be grateful for the moment of illusion. The realistic, dear things are really not so realistic as they think. Their penchant for married men. It is axiomatic that women, all things considered, will flirt with married men more readily than with single ones, especially when the wives are present. The reason is simply that women find more pleasure in hurting other women than in hurting men. The legendary sisterhood of womankind is, of course, a myth. Men have been triangulating other women against women for the longest. And that is right there is just an example. And the whole hypergamy talk of right now, that top one, that is the precursor to that. So I was clicking around Amazon. This book is over $65 or something like that with no paperback copy, but it says 1945 copyright by Thomas D. Horton. Author pours out his heart about women as secretaries, as bosses, as gift givers, as walking companions, as barfly, as wife, as letter writer, and as mistress. What men don't like about women will save many a girl, many a heartache, and it will make for a wholesomeness and frankness between the sexes that can spell only emotional health. There's no emotional health that can be had from this women being dumped on by a man. Outside of just women conforming simply to make them happy. But soon as you do that and you become the robot that they expect, you become a literal appliance that can be discarded soon as they are unhappy, like a kid discards their Christmas gifts in the afternoon after Christmas and goes and just plays with their old stuff or the box. I was trying to Google and see if there were more pages available of this book, and unfortunately, I came up with nothing. I did find an article from the Slate. It was titled, "It's a Miracle That Employers Don't Unalive More Secretaries." A few years ago, I saw the unbelievable table of contents of a 1945 book, What Men Don't Like About Women, floating around Twitter, courtesy of Sophie Gadd. I ordered a copy of the book via interlibrary loan recently and realized that I should have read it sooner. Its naked animosity, cloaked as humor, is quite instructive to the reader struggling to understand American misogyny in 2018. And that's really what it is, how men's humor is literally not funny. It's just mean spiritedness wrapped up in a little chuckle. The book's pages are full of hypocrisy, unreasonable expectations, mockery, and seething anger. The author, Thomas D. Horton, was not famous, but three of this book's chapters first appeared as humorous essays in Esquire magazine. The sentiments expressed here, one could argue, were at least somewhat mainstream in the 1930s and 40s. The observations in the book, Horton rather unbelievably claims in the conclusion, are meant to be heartfelt and given only the spirit of mutual helpfulness so that women could know why their men didn't love them as much as they hoped they would. Philosopher Kate Mann has argued that misogyny is not simply the hatred of women, but rather the belief that women are giving creatures and that women who are not always giving to men, to children, or to their communities are unnatural and should be brought back into line. Horton's chapters are packed with anecdotal examples of selfish women who expect far too much from men. It's a horror show of male petulance with a dark undertone of threat. And we see that today with these women out here that are having the audacity to be child free or to be single. They have got to be brought back in line. And that's the reason why I said this man walked so that these incelosaurus, these red pillars, these Christo fascists could run today. This is a long article, so I am going to stop right here and I'm going to continue it in a part 2. So I was just examining Slate's article, "It's a Miracle That Employers Don't Unalive More Secretaries." And this article was from 2018 and it was based on the 1945 book, What Men Don't Like About Women, which was like a recap of some of the sentiments, the misogyny, and the supposed humor that men were using against women back in the 1930s and 40s. This was their sentiments. So, philosopher Kate Mann has argued that misogyny is not simply the hatred of women, but rather the belief that women are giving creatures and that women who are not always given to men, to children, or to their communities are unnatural and should be brought back into line. Horton's chapters are packed with anecdotal examples of selfish women who expect far too much from men. It's a horror show of male petulance with a dark undertone of threat. In my other video, I already went over some of the table of contents, so I'm going to just jump right to the meat of this article. It feels like no accident that Horton began his book with a section called Women as Bosses. Almost every other section, save the one, Women in the Office, analyzing male female romantic dynamic, that female bosses are given the honor of launching Horton's rant is perhaps an indicator of how greatly some men were threatened by women wielding authority over them in the workplace during the social upheavals of the Depression and World War II. These women bosses of Horton's imagination were actually predatory. A woman in a position to buy merchandise can almost force a salesman she likes to go to bed with her before she gives him an order, mean to both male and female underlings, and above all, unnatural. To Horton, women in charge were trying far too hard to be men. And we have seen this. We've seen situations where these men just keep on calling women men or saying that we're masculine. Like I said, I will keep saying this man walked so the Encelosauruses and Red Pill and Manosphere could run today. Women bosses often assume men's postures when addressing businessmen in the office. Horton writes, they sit on an arm of a chair, they stretch out their legs, they rest one leg on the thigh of another, they flip their cigarette ashes on the floor, etc. Their aim is to impress the men that they are hard, efficient, no fluff, no monkey shines. Horton isn't taken in, and he promises other men aren't either. What should a boss woman do then to please a Horton? Basically, step down. To be a boss, it would seem a woman must remove from her life most of the attributes that the poets find so alluring: charm, graciousness, tact, decency, consideration, affection, repose. Horton writes. Naturally, she cannot remove these attributes without raising havoc with her own being. She does hateful things and hates herself for doing them. This blanket diagnosis of successful women, successful women's poor psychological health is a prime mid-century example of the persistent American idea that striving women must be deeply physically and spiritually broken. Now Horton segues into his favorite topic: women's failures in the realm of romance. Everyone knows, well, everyone knew in these pre-texting days that women talk way, way too much on the phone. For a woman to hold you on the telephone for a half an hour saying nothing is an old story. Horton complains, but what is most annoying about this is their habit of saying goodbye in 15 different ways. Bye-bye, honey bunch. Toodle-dee-doo, sweet. I give you a teeny weeny bye-bye kiss, lovely one. Bye, honey. Now will you think of me? Even given these trials, Horton would not prefer that you write him a letter. Women's stationery is a mess of monograms, perfume, decal edges, hard cards, crisscross lines, dreadful color combinations, and annoying size of envelopes. It takes a man 4 or 5 times longer to open a woman's letter than a man's. In details like this, you can see how Horton's trying for a funny tone, but the vitriol always shows through. Now, he doesn't like it when women act like men, in working and being a boss babe. But he also doesn't like it when women are doing things that add a woman's touch to it. Sounds like men of today. As mentioned, Esquire, established in 1933, was the first home for 3 of the chapters in this book. In an essay about Esquire and the creation of a new male specific mass consumer culture in the 30s, Kenning Brazil writes that the magazine frequently ran takedowns like Hortons, excoriating women's taste in arenas like stationery, clothing, food, and interior decor. It sounds like the red pillars of today and how they just can't stand anything about women, anything. The pieces Brazil cites are, like Horton's, absolutely brutal towards women, painting them as prone to inauthenticity, possessing a love of needless decoration and fads and frippery. Women were, Brazil writes, merely a foil against which a superior male taste could be posited. Esquire argued that men should do more buying and consuming for themselves, a worldview beneficial to the health of men's magazine like Esquire. Horton's chapter on food, reading, and clothing makes much more sense if you see them as a part of this cultural argument against women's taste and in favor of men's purchasing power. On to women in the office, a separate beast from women bosses who are truly a trial. It's a miracle that employers do not take out more secretaries or unalive more secretaries. Horton marvels. The secretary gives too much unwanted medical advice, offers her own opinion on business matters, talks, and above all, seduces men, bringing romance into a place that should by rights be devoid of it, unless, of course, the man decides to make a move. Hypocrisy, hypocrisy. 9 out of every 10 secretaries and stenographers are too much women in the office. They overpower and overperfume themselves and color their fingernails too harsh a color, complains Horton, who adds that such secretaries and stenographers wait in elevators for men to leave at night, hoping to cadge free dinners. But even worse, women in the office think nothing of keeping their sanitary napkins, mom, zonite, and safety pins in their upper drawer of their desk or in the office community medicine cabinet. So this right here, where he's talking about getting free dinners, it's just like the men of right now thinking that women are simply trying to take them for a dinner, just trying to get them for all the Applebee's of right now. And then how dare these women bring supplies to work for womanly needs? It's wild that these secretaries and stenographers would do such a thing. This book is jaw dropping as a record of misogyny and intriguing as a document of social history. Were safety pins truly so upsetting because of their association with sanitary pads? Or did Horton lose his mind in the course of this sentence? And was mom an analgesic, perhaps for painful menstruation? The word doesn't have great SEO, so I'm not sure. Historians of medicine may know. Yeah, I didn't know that word. One thing for sure, misogyny has found a way to just keep just changing a little bit, but we can read this right now, and it would be intriguing, it would be interesting to get a book. But what they are saying right now, you could read that and it would translate, with a few modern day change switch ups. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, what you've read so far or heard so far. Jump in the comments, let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.